Hey, folks, welcome back to the LandFixer podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Logan Swanson, and today we have a hell of a guest, John Jasniak. Everybody say hi. John, say hi to everybody.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me, Logan.
No, thank you. Folks, a reminder, if you have any deals that you need funded, flips, subdivisions, entitlement deals, whatever it might be, as long as it's flat and not vertical, go to landpartnerfunding.com or email me at the landfixer@gmail.com, and we'll happily take care of you. Also, if you're a landowner and you're looking for someone to JV with you to develop or subdivide your land, I'll be happy to partner with you. Email me. We'll talk more about it. But John, man, I'm so glad to have you today. I've heard you speak a couple times. You are one of the few people that I would say actually has brought much in terms of ingenuity to our space. In the past few years, it's been a lot of kind of the same old, same old. But you are calling from Cornutus, Texas, a town that you purchased, which I
Yeah.
think is pretty cool. So I want to hear about that story. But before we get there, can you just tell the audience kind of who you are, what you're about, what got you into land investing? I believe you're an engineer to start, right? Petroleum engineer?
Yeah. I was an engineer, went to school, got out in 2015, and quickly realized that the corporate life was not for me. I didn't dislike engineering. I actually liked it, what I was doing, but it was more just about the office grind and 9 to 5 and all the things that entails. So I think, like most of us, I bought a course and sought a different route in real estate and bought a couple land courses from some of the OGs. And I guess the rest is history. Started with small flips in West Texas, where I'm at now, and still do a lot of work today. And yeah, now do a lot of bigger subdivisions. I'm trying to figure out how to scale this thing to $100 million company as soon as possible.
Okay, well, let's start with one of your first deals. What was like your first successful deal?
So my very first deal was out in Hudspeth County. I found a piece online, which for most people who know me, I'm just big about buying land on market. Really, I still do it today. And so I guess going back to my roots, I bought a 53-acre piece in Gunsight Ranch for $8,500. And in the Gunsight Ranch in Hudspeth County, there's a lot of 10-acre pieces that were created from these 53-acre pieces. They went and broke the ranch into 53 acres subplots, and then everyone basically chopped those down even further. So I bought this 53-acre piece that was already kind of subdivided into 5 separate, like 10.6-acre lots. $8,500. Bought it online from some guy out of Florida. He still flips land today.
Hmm.
I turned around and sold all those smaller 10-acre pieces. All said and done, I think I was out of the deal for like 17.5 or 18 grand within a few months. And so that was kind of my first flip. I doubled my money and started sending direct mail to West Texas.
And that was what year? You said 2018,
That
2019?
that was 2016 where I bought that piece,
Ooh.
and Jazzland, my company, was formed January 1st of 2017.
So that was good old times. So did you go on a buy-in
Yeah,
spree right away?
I did. Yeah, I feel like the space has gotten a little bit more competitive, especially in direct mail arena. So back then, I would send direct mail to all the counties in West Texas, and I was buying probably one in every 100 or maybe 200, pieces of mail that I sent. So I
Hmm.
was scooping up all these 10, 20, 40-acre lots for probably 20 to 30 cents on the dollar.
Yep. Yep. And everybody always asks me because I started doing West Texas land as well.
Yeah.
And every time I
Brewster
tell
County,
somebody,
as we were talking about.
yeah, actually, Brewster County was that was when I expanded. My first county was Culberson County, which
Okay. Of
has, if you're familiar, just Van Horn.
course.
Yeah. And it's got all of it's got none of the like appeal that Brewster County has. At least there's some like hills in Brewster County and a state park, but Culberson County is literally just a small town and then
Mhm.
flatland. I don't think there's really much else out there.
Yeah, Culberson is interesting because it's in between Hudspeth and kind of Brewster. And so Hudspeth is very, very pretty. Brewster is very very amazing. Obviously, Big Bend National Park, and Culberson's kind of in the middle. The thing that it has, though, it has water out there. You can
Mm-hmm.
get yourself water wells in some areas, and Bezos is obviously doing a lot of stuff with Blue Origin out in that
Mm-hmm.
area, and he owns, I think, hundreds of thousands of acres in Culberson County, which most people don't actually know that Jeff Bezos owns that much land out there and has like ranch houses and all this stuff going on. So land value shot up a lot in Culberson, but yeah, it's not as serene.
Hey folks, so sorry to interrupt this amazing podcast. What a wonderful host you have so far. But I want to bring you our sponsor for today. Today, we are talking about Pebble, REI.com. My good friend Jesse Kwong has been really making something special over there. Okay, so if you're a land investor, you've done a few deals, you've proven that it works to yourself, and you're kind of stuck trying to use spreadsheets or making some sort of complicated system of Zapier and other CRMs to try to, trying to create a hodgepodge and make everything fit together in your business. You don't got to do that anymore. Pebble is built for serious land investors. It's got a fully integrated phone system so you can call and text. It's got your marketing management tools so you can launch and track your campaigns easily. A full property data system. That's right. You don't need to have a whole different software for your leads and get them all the way organized into contracts. There's also built-in due diligence tools so you can pull your neighbor data records, property details, floodplains, all that sort of stuff built right in. And folks, guess what? AI agents have been announced and they are coming this year. If you're using AI powered assistants, you'll be able to automate key parts of your business using this. If your systems aren't centralized, you're going to have a real hard time doing that. So now's the time to streamline everything into Pebble. So you're going to be ahead of the game instead of scrambling to catch up. Now, folks, I got an exclusive offer for you. You know I do. If you go to pebblerei.com/the LandFixer, you're going to get a $50 credit so you can hop in there, do some mailers, pull some data, send out contracts, whatever you need to do. Again, that is pebblerei.com/the LandFixer. Check it out. You're going to love it.
Yeah, and people always ask me working in these areas like who buys this land, and that was really what kind of set me on the path with land investing was realizing that I could sell 5 acre flat desert tracts with. I mean, a lot of my sold hardly had access. I mean, they had dirt roads, but you never know if they're washed out or if they're maintained to any degree. And I never had any issue selling any of them. I sold all of
Yeah,
them
it's
easily, whether on owner finance or sometimes still even cash. Like I was selling some of these for cash. I could not believe it.
yeah, it's amazing, and it still blows my mind. Like I had an event this weekend in Cornudas out here, and when we hold these events, a lot of people come out from El Paso, and I was supposed to give away a free piece of land, but it just didn't. The weather was crazy, and we didn't have that many people out, so I was like, oh, I'm going to postpone it. But anyways, people come out and they see the land thing, and you'd be surprised at how many people from like El Paso, which is the biggest city in the area, still do not know that you could just buy land online, or that you could buy 5 acres of land for 5 grand. Like they hear that because they come out and talk to me, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like land is $100,000 for a half-acre lot or an acre lot in the city. Like you can actually do this. So there's like, we're in it, so we're like, oh, it's getting more competitive, oh, we're not getting as much mail return, whatever. But when you actually zoom out from a high level, most people still do not know that you can buy a 5 acre piece in Culberson County for, let's say, 10 grand max. Like most people don't even know that that's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in a society where most people don't own anything, it's a compelling offer. They're like, okay, at least I can own
Yep.
something. They're renting their apartment or their house. Their cars are on forever notes. As soon as one pays off, they just go get another one. So the idea of just having something is a compelling situation. But to kind of advance, all right. So you did some, West Texas flips. That's kind of cool. Your first deal was a subdivide, even if it was already subdivided. It took me like 3 years
Technically.
to do anything like that. But when I first heard you speak, you were talking about doing owner financing arbitrage. Is that what you called it? I mean, effectively, they would owner finance to you. You would subdivide properties, and then you would sell those on owner finance. Correct.
Hmm.
Can
Yeah.
you tell us about maybe a structure or maybe one of those deals that was really compelling?
Yeah, so I think I would call it more like creative finance, basically. Most people are familiar with, sub twos and pace mortgage is big nowadays, and um, private money and owner financing is becoming bigger and bigger, especially with craziness in the economy and the banks and interest rates and all that. But basically, I was having a capital problem back in 2020
Hmm.
where I wanted to scale, and I had a line of credit that I had tapped out, and I was at a meetup and a mastermind. I was talking to a guy about it, and he's like, "Well, why don't you just use the seller as the bank?" And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I could for sure do that, but like, how do I go and sell this land? Like, I want to subdivide it. Like, okay, the seller is financing me, but now I want to go sell off these pieces." And he's like, "Oh, you just do wraparound notes and use a creative deed of trust." And I'm like, in my mind, I just didn't even know that was a thing. And
Hmm.
I immediately went back and hit up a real estate attorney and basically just template documents that we had created, just uh, new deeds and new prom notes and all that stuff. And so yeah, nowadays I'm a huge proponent of seller financing and creative financing. And I would say the first deal I did with it was out in West Texas. It was a 400-acre parcel that I had bought, a 500-acre parcel that I had bought for 400 an acre. It was $200,000 purchase, and they had carried. I think I gave them 40,000 down as a $160,000 note. I was paying them like $2,600 a month, and I went into this 500 acres and I created just 12 separate parcels on quarter calls, just northeast quarter, northwest quarter, etc., and sold off these 12 lots for $500 a month each. And so, I had like 6 grand coming in and like 2,600 going out. But what I forgot to do on that one, and it was a big learning experience when I set up that creative structure up front, I didn't require the seller to give me releases of, call it 40 acres if and when
Hmm.
I wanted it. My first
Yeah.
one, I got it right where I like let me subdivide the land and sell it. But like, okay, a whole separate deal. What if you need a partial release, it's called, on one of those lots?
Hmm.
And so I remember going to them like 6 months into it, like, "Hey, I need a release for this 40 acres. Like, no, we don't want to give it to you. You can pay off the whole note of like 150,000, whatever it was at the time, or you can keep paying on it." So I kept paying on it, and learned very quickly that you need both the ability to subdivide and sell your land, plus get those releases from the seller.
And I'm guessing that spurred you to improve some contracts.
Yeah, yeah, we went and reworked the contract. And funny enough, with those deals, let's be honest, most, because I hear it all the time with the people I work with and everything, the seller financing doesn't work. They just want cash all the time. It's like, yeah, that is true. Most people are going to want to be cash out of the deal. But I've had great success. I've done over a dozen of them on seller financing. You're gonna have to go through more leads. There's
Hmm.
no doubt about it.
Hmm.
Um, but they are out there.
Yeah, and it's also like I don't think a lot of people know how to make it a compelling proposition, right? Or to walk them through why it is a benefit to them. But I
Sure.
think it's going to be more and more compelling in what I think is going to be. And you tell me your thoughts. I think we're going to have a more challenging seller market. So the folks that if we're going to try to acquire properties, there's just going to be less cash buyers. So they're probably going to be more open to seller financing. And also, a lot of land is being held by older individuals. So maybe
Yeah.
folks that aren't necessarily looking to get a huge sum of cash that they have to go put into savings or redeploy somewhere, but that is like a lot of them are attracted to reverse mortgages. Why wouldn't they be attracted to owner financing their land? Um, so have you
Well, what do
created a?
you think? What do you think? Because most people, I think, are just dumb when it comes to money. And let's be honest, they're financially illiterate. They're like, "Give me this $500,000 cash." I'm like, back to your point, like, how are you making compelling for them? Like, I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do with 500,000? Just put it in a bank? Like, I'm gonna
Yes.
give you 7 to 10% interest, and you're gonna be collateralized by your land, which and you could always resell it, and you're getting a solid down payment up front. But most people won't take the offer, and it just blows my mind. They'd rather just take $500,000 cash if they have a good reason to and spend it or whatever. But I feel like most people don't. I could be wrong. Like most people are just financially illiterate.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make the compelling case, like you're saying. And on top of that, like if you really, well, I should say first, I think you have to try to get yourself in a position of trust. So
Mm,
if you can get a little bit of trust from them that, hey, we're kind of on the same side of this. I'm not trying to get this from you at the lowest possible price. I'm telling you the only way that I can make this work. I can either make this work at this price cash, or I can make it work in these terms on owner financing. And both should be compelling for you. But one, I think, is more compelling, the owner finance route, because you're going to make this much money consistently for whatever, the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I mean, some of these notes are running long now. And then frame it in such a way, it's like, what are your monthly expenses? What your mortgage? Do you have a car note? What are these things that all of a sudden will be paid for every month for years through this offer? And then I use myself to help justify it as well when I'm having these conversations, because I'll say, look, I love notes. I'm not telling you that you should love a note to like fool you. My chief goal is to have a bunch of land notes. It's awesome. Deferred revenue. And then I'll just kind of talk to them like they're on my side of the table. And yeah, I mean, a lot of folks will try to shut you down before you get to that point. But if you can get them to the point where you're explaining from your perspective why you love notes and it's genuine, that has authority in conversations.
I've actually never really used that one or thought about it in that way. So I'm gonna steal that from you. It's gonna be my golden nugget from this podcast.
Yeah, I always try to, like, whenever I'm in negotiations, one, I usually do it obviously. I actually tell people I'm terrible at negotiations, so I don't really try to negotiate. I tell you up front either the price that I'm willing to pay or the structure that I think will work. And then two, I try to find out what's most important to you and if it solves your problems or scratches your itch. And most of the time, if you phrase it that way and they really don't feel like there's a lot of room to negotiate or barter back and forth, folks will either say no quickly, which is its own gift, like, all right, we can move on to the next one. Or they'll start allowing you to sit on their side of the table. That's like my visualization. I'm trying to like get up from opposing them at a table, and I'm just trying to sit next to them. And when you can get in that stage of like, hey, we're working this out together. What's the deal breaker for you? Okay, if we do owner financing, what's more important, a higher monthly payment or and then you kind of get into this sort of like car sales conversation with them, but they're the car seller. It's kind of sweet.
And I found on every one of those deals, it seems there's always a different objection, which is kind of why it's impossible to put into a course or just have like some sort of thing on it, because it's like, some sellers concerned about you making less than 10-acre tracts and what happens if you default. Another one's concerned about their monthly payment. Another one is old and they want their money quicker. Okay, maybe you can utilize a balloon in that case. I mean, there's just so many different avenues to explore and combat the objections deal by deal.
Yeah, and that kind of what gets me to like what really impressed me about how you were able to get them to agree for you to subdivide properties while on that owner finance, because that's usually the big fear. Like I have a deal in Tennessee that I funded with some partners. It's a 320-acre subdivide project,
Okay.
and they're owner financing to us. We're doing the subdivision work. We were very careful in how we put together that purchase agreement to make sure that we wouldn't violate any rules or cause anything to trigger, a complete payment to the note. It was like $1 million note. We put 200,000 down on the property, and we thought we had everything dialed in, but it was being managed by an attorney, and that attorney got to be unhappy with the way that we were leaving him out of some of the conversations. And he started throwing up red flags and causing issues and delays. And at one point, we had over $1 million worth of contracts sitting idly at title for 6 months while we tried to get this attorney on board because of these objections.
Attorneys kill deals, man. Attorneys kill deals.
Yeah. So one, I think it's really smart for you to have all your ducks in a row to get this stuff like open in front of people and addressed as early on in the conversation. But as far as priorities, I would definitely establish the price point first before going further. Like if you can get them to buy in on the price point and then get into the rest, that's probably a pretty good deal. But yeah, so because of that, those numbers, you kind of briefly stated them. You could have a note that you're paying $2,400 a month. You've sold these notes for $6,000 a month. Are you usually trying to get 0% owner financing or do some sort of interest improvement on the dispo side?
Yeah, so there's several different ways I think about it. I guess from a high level, my kind of goal and rule as a company is not to have more than 33% debt to note receivable value, basically. So Jazzland has 10 million of notes on the books. I can't be carrying more than $3.3 million worth of debt. And that's just kind of my comfort level for, if the market were to turn, or I'm going to get a bunch of defaults and payment streams are going to stop coming in, et cetera. From like a more granular perspective, kind of my goals and rules are to be making at least double. So, if I'm paying them $3,000 a month, I ought to be making at least $6,000 a month on the revenue side. And the interest rate is less important to me because on the buy side, it's important, I guess, but the down payment drives most of it. If you just were to look at an IRR or yield calculation, if you take your 20% down payment and drop it down to 10% down payment, that would have a many times over effect as opposed to taking an interest rate from even like 15% down to 7%. Like the down payment drives the yield and economic analysis. So I'm less concerned about how much interest I'm paying the seller. Now on large deals, if you're carrying like $1 million, $2 million, $3 million note, that percentage point of interest can obviously make a more significant difference. But on smaller deals, I mean, most of the time I'm paying 7 to 10%, but if I need to pay 15 to 18%, like I'm all about it, especially, if I'm given a lower down payment. I think these things tend to range in the 10 to 20% down range. I've never given 0% down. I've never been blessed to have a deal that good, but it's possible.
No. Yeah. And have you gotten into any, have you sold any notes? I know a lot of people have been talking about selling notes. I know some folks who are doing it. I've only successfully sold a handful of notes.
I've been selling notes since 2019. We sell usually a couple million a year. This year I'll sell a lot more. It might be in the many millions. Depends how we do throughout the year. But yeah, I've been selling since 2019. We usually sell and call it 2 million or so a year in notes.
And what do you mind telling me sort of what kind of rates you're getting for your notes? That's kind of why we don't, is because people are offering such a low amount.
Yeah, so it largely depends on product, obviously. A more desert square sort of flipping product is going to trade at a lot less than, a platted and approved major subdivision close to a city. But I would say it's going to vary anywhere from 16% yield to the investor. I'm going to talk in terms of yield that the investor wants. They're going to want anywhere from 16 to 20% is kind of what I'm seeing. But if you get into like a desert square product, it's probably going to be, I would think, more in the 25 to 30% yield that they're going to want. So you're going to back calculate your discount on principal value based on the yield that they want. So if I have a 5-year note versus a 10-year note, the discount will be different. 5 years being discounted less, 10 years being discounted more. The investor wants 16%, it's going to be discounted less versus if they want a 20% yield, it'll be discounted more. But I think 16 to 20%, as long as your product is decent with a decent borrower, should be the trading rate right now, and from my experience.
And to accomplish a lot of note sales, do you have like one person who buys them all, or do you have a bunch of people or network of people that you're selling to?
So I have a network that I've built up over the last like 5 years. I recommend whoever is trying to sell notes to start building that network as soon as possible. There's a lot of paper traders out there nowadays, all the way from brokers to people who actually will carry and take payment on the notes. So, there's, if you're just in the Facebook land groups, you'll see some on there, but there's a lot broader network of private folks out there for people to tap into. You just got to start shaking hands and meeting them.
Sick. So now to get to Cornutus. I have not heard this story. Like I said, I've seen some of your videos, I think just on social media and whatnot. But can you kind of tell me how you ended up buying a town in West Texas?
Sure. So yeah, Cornutus is an unincorporated town. It's 28 acres. So no local government authority or municipality or anything. We got 28 acres though, with a motel, cafe, RV park, few mobile homes, a water well that powers the whole thing. We got actual water lines and water infrastructure that runs like in the town. And it's 50 miles east of El Paso on US 62 180, the highway, just west of Guadalupe Mountain National Park. So it's kind of a really cool spot in the middle of the desert. The story is interesting. I've been trying to grow my personal brand and recognition in the land space and real estate space. And back in 2022, I was like hitting it hard and saw this town for sale on Facebook, and a couple people sent it to me, and I saw it, and I was like, man, it was early 2022. I was like, it'd be so cool to be like, oh, I own a town. Like that'd be perfect for like social media and coaching and all that. And I was like, nah, it's in the middle of nowhere. Like this is gonna be like crazy. Like who am I gonna have work this? I don't want employees. Like this is gonna be a whole lifestyle change if I actually do this. So kind of put it off till late 2022, and then I saw it was still for sale. I was like, you know what, screw it, let's just go out. I took my dad out, we drove out same day, 8.5 hours from Fort Worth out to Cornudas, got there in the afternoon, got a tour of the property from the current owner, who was an absolute maniac. Like one story I like to tell is he basically wanted me to buy it sight unseen. He's like, yeah, we can meet down at the courthouse in Sierra Blanca, bring a cashier's check, and I'll give you a deed. I'm like, buddy, there's no way. Like, we're talking like a cafe out here, like structures. Like, how do I know there's like no crazy environmental waste buried? Like, he's like, nope, you're not getting an inspection. You're not getting anything. When I was out there with my dad, I was like, can I get a sample of the water well? Because I want to test, water quality, make sure there's no environmental anything going on. And he's like, nope, you can't. I was like, well, what happens if I just go in the bathroom and kind of turn on the faucet? Like, can I use your bathroom type thing? He's like, you can try, but if I catch you, I'll shoot you. And, there was multiple times like that where I remember driving through part of it, and I was like, can I get a video of this? And he's like, nope. And I'm in his truck. I'm like, can I get out and grab a video? He's like, nope. And the door is locked. I'm like, this dude literally has us like captive in his truck, driving us around, touring the property.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So somehow driving back with my dad, I was like, I think I want to do this. Like, this is kind of crazy, but I like it, and it's super interesting. And so I want to try and do it. And so it was definitely the hardest real estate transaction I ever had to do, because he had 125,000 in back taxes. Pretty much what happened is he didn't pay his property taxes for like 10 years or something, and it accrued interest. And then he went to a private lender who specializes in like property tax loans.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys are like loan sharks. So he gets a loan from them for like, I don't know, 75,000 or something. And then the interest starts racking up with them, and attorney fees, because he's not making his payments, and all that stuff. And so it was like down to the wire. Like, are we actually going to close this, or is he going to go into like some sort of foreclosure or some sort of legal process? But at the end of the day, we actually ended up getting it done at a title company out of El Paso. And yeah, now I own a town, and that was 2 years ago.
So, what's the experience been so far? What did you do? Did you start plans right away? What's the goals? Is there a long-term exit strategy? What are you doing with it?
Yeah, so I guess let's talk about the long term first. The long term, I kind of just plan on holding this. I don't have, everything's subject to change, but my current mind thought process is like, I'm going to hold this forever. It's going to be generational. It's going to be kind of my spot in the desert. We're going to do some crazy stuff with it, hopefully. But the first thing I did is I got on a property in February of 2023, and there was actually snow on the ground in West Texas. And I'm walking through this property, and there's just, junk everywhere. Like everything was just left in the cafe, from food and everything down to, like just plates and with food on them, and burger condiments and everything just sitting in the cooler still, molding and, rotting away. And so the first thing we did is we spent like probably a solid 3 months every other week just coming out here, taking trash trailers out, organizing stuff. And since then it's been over $1 million into this property for me, just straight out of pocket. The one thing I did get is a cost seg study done, so I got some tax savings on it. But it's been over $1 million, and the first year was just all improvements. We didn't even open the property or cafe or anything, no cash flow. And I thought naively, I actually thought that I would have this thing up and running like in the first 2 or 3 months. I was like, I'm gonna buy this, we'll be able to clean it up, turn it around, and open the cafe and find employees and get it going. It was nothing like that whatsoever. So I got about 10 employees out here that we employ, a couple full time. And now we've been open a year since last April, and we're kind of veering towards hosting larger events. Like, we do a big barbecue event every month. We do a concert every month right now. We got car shows coming and crawfish boils and all these other things. But the events are big because people come out from El Paso. They see us on Facebook, doing a lot of Facebook ads, and they come out for barbecue or whatever it is.
So are there plans to expand it, build more buildings, things like that?
Probably. So far I've brought in one extra mobile home, bought a mobile probably 5 or 6 months ago for 30 grand with a shipping container. So we brought the container on, we brought the mobile home on. Um, it's a really interesting area. It can expand. It can do a little bit of developing out here. It's hard because of water.
Right.
Cornudas has one water well. It's at 900 foot, does 2 gallons per minute. Cost you 70 or 80,000 to drill something like that. The pump just went out like a couple months ago. We had to get it all pulled and replaced with a new downhole pump. It cost me 10 grand just to do that. So, water's the issue. Weather's an issue. Like this last weekend, we were probably going to have 700 or 800 people out at a barbecue, but it started snowing literally 2 days ago, and like 40-mile-per-hour winds. It was 35 degrees. So it's a problem.
So would you say it's been worth it so far? Are you happy with your decision?
Yeah, man, I like it. I often think there's definitely an opportunity cost with doing it. I think my land business would be a whole lot bigger if I hadn't have taken on this project. But I definitely can't replace the experiences and everything that we've had. I've learned a lot personally, how to swing a hammer, how to do drywall, concrete, roofing, plumbing, all that stuff. But my dad's been out here, all my friends have been out here. I've met a lot of cool people, and it's helped me, network and connect with some investors, whether it's yourself or other people in different parts of business. Like, oh, this dude owns a town, let's have him on a podcast, or have him come speak or whatever.
Yeah, just like a cool story to fold into your life. I think the people that have the coolest stories are the ones who are actively looking for stories. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna go do some crazy shit today. That's like
Yeah, it's very true. And, it's very ironic because we start this land business and land stuff, and most of us are billed that, it's to get rich. I don't want to say get rich quick, get passive income quick, sit on your butt, collect payments type of business, which we know is largely not true. But, with land, you certainly can just be a one-man solopreneur, and you can make, 500 grand or something in a year and not have any employees. And it's very much a lifestyle business. I think that's a reason why a lot of people start doing it, including myself. When I first started, I was like, man, I can't even imagine having employees. Like, this is, it's great. Just sending out mail to West Texas and flipping land. It's awesome. And, fast forward now, I got, 2 full-time employees on the land side, and then, probably, like I said, 10 employees out here in Cornudas, a lot of them just hourly, but, now I have probably 12, 13 employees that I manage, and it's just taken a completely different turn for me than the typical land path, I would say.
Yeah, and that's kind of a perfect transition, because now I'm curious, what does the land business look like for you today? I've talked to a bunch of flippers, and I've heard a lot of different things. People from people who are just kind of throwing their hands up. I know a lot of folks that are just going to get jobs again because they their inventory sold out, or their notes are expiring, or they can't find new deals. All the way to people who are like, let's just wholesale now. Okay, I'm just going to try to squeeze 5 to 10 grand out of wholesale deals and try to stack those. Then people who are going deep into subdivides. Still, that's kind of what I prefer. But what are you doing today? What does it look like? Still more of those owner finance subdivisions?
I'm doing pretty much exclusively subdividing, trying to figure out how to do it at even bigger scale. Right now we have a deal that we bought for $2 million. We'll put like 400,000 or 500,000 worth of improvements into it, and we'll sell it for 7.5 or 8 million. We basically are all sold out, 76 lots. So trying to do, $5 to $10 million deals like that and go even bigger. We got a $13.25 million offer out right now that we're kind of working through. That piece is probably worth 60 to 70 million. Funny enough, I had a pre-development meeting this morning on another major subdivision, half in city limits, half in the ETJ of a town in Texas. And my freaking Teams wouldn't work. The microphone wouldn't work, so I had to reschedule that. But, I think, I think it's like any other business. You have to adapt. You have to evolve. Things are going to change. You can't just send out direct mail anymore and just get a crazy return. I still do see a ton of opportunity out there from all perspectives. I see deals online from time to time that I'd buy that for 10 and I know it's worth 20. And I definitely see a lot of big development potential out there just on the MLS, not including, the rise in SMS texting and direct mailing. I think nowadays, if you want to be successful, you have to have a three-pronged approach at least. You need to be hitting them with direct mail because that's always going to work. People are always going to go to the mailbox. You need to be hitting them with SMS texting / cold calling. I'd loop those into one bucket. Those two you have to combine together. The problem with the SMS and cold calling component is it's becoming more and more regulated. Regulations are always changing, etc. So you need to be on top of that, but that's not too difficult. And then the third pronged approach is you should be just looking on market and networking with people, whether it's brokers, realtors, MLS listings. And so with those three things combined into kind of one engine working, I don't see how you cannot find deals. I think most beginners, God bless them, they're still learning. I mean, it's overwhelming. Like, how are you going to learn how to cold call and SMS text and look for deals online and know all your markets and network with realtors, brokers? You probably have a 9-to-5 job that you're still trying to work. You're probably crunched for capital. So it's becoming, I think, maybe a little bit more challenging to enter the space just because everyone's flooding in and there's more competition. And now, people who've gotten ahead and have capital and time and resources to work with are kind of accelerating even further past the competition. So you have to be a lot more savvy and hustle as you get into this space.
Yeah. And is there any part of you that feels compelled to go vertical? Like every 6 months, I'll be like, I need to start building houses or switch up or something like that. And then I have to calm myself down and be like, that's not what you know how to do. You're going to mess that up surely. But do you feel any sort of, or are you just like, I just want to keep doing big acreage in West Texas or?
Well, I've kind of started to expand all over Texas. And to answer your question, I don't feel the urge because I've learned that to scale and grow a business is extreme focus is required. And so I would say everyone is different though. Like for instance, I was hanging out with Clint Turner a couple weeks ago, and that guy just does whatever interests him. Like, he's doing some distressed property deals. He's done some commercial deals. Of course, he does the land deals. He coaches all that different stuff. So like, if you have that personality where you just, you find the edge and you need to try new things and that really interests you and you have fun doing it, by all means, you should do it. But if your goal is to actually make money and grow and scale a business, you need extreme hyper focus. And so I don't see any need to go vertical because I'm not out of runway on the horizontal stuff. Like, I think just Texas land development itself is just in Texas, you could do at least $1 billion, certainly in the hundreds of millions. So until I have a problem with that and running out of land deals to do, I don't see the need or have the urge to kind of go vertical or look into any other asset class.
Yeah. And then you made mention that, you're trying to build 100 million this year. That's your goal for revenue.
I won't be able to do it this year, but as a whole, I want to build $100 million company. I mean, this year we're off to a great start. Probably hopefully hit the 8-figure number and then some. But growing $100 million land business is, I don't know, it's easier said than done. I thought it would be easier than it is, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, and that's kind of my question goes to motive. Okay, like you get to this point where things are comfortable in your life. You have money, you have businesses that are operating, you own a small town, right? What makes you feel compelled or ambitious enough to continue to scale to that level?
Yeah. So before I answer that real quick, I think I want to mention, as you grow and scale in the land business, it's super important to have obviously capital and different like financing arms. So like, for the average beginner Joe Schmo, you're using your own capital. You might have friends and family, but to actually grow and scale like a 9-figure business, like you're going to have to get banks involved. You're probably going to have to start a fund. Like it's just a whole completely different animal. Which you have your funding arm of the business, but from a motivation perspective to do that, I mean, I've just always been. I largely think it's personality that drives it. Some people get comfortable and that's their deal. Some people are more motivated by money. Some people are more motivated by girls. Some people want the fancy cars. Some people want the lifestyle business. Like there's several different buckets I think that motivation falls into. For me, it's very much the master and status class where I want to be the most well-known, respected person and the best at my craft. And I've just always been like that since since I was growing up, all through sports, all through school, like being the best of the sports team, being the best of the math class, etc. I remember I used to love test day at Texas Tech in college because I'd go in and okay, now my knowledge is like tested and my expertise. And I'd take the test, and my favorite part was when the test results came in and they posted it because I knew I was going to crush it. Then I would love listening to all the other people complain about how hard the test was and what the curve was going to be on the test, and just having the confidence and knowledge that I crushed it. So it's like that's for me. It's very much a personality thing. I think I'm just driven that way to always be the best, and that's in real estate. That's more money. I mean, more money and more network. I mean, real estate's the one arena where you can kind of openly brag about your money that you're making, and you're not considered like an idiot. So I'm not really driven by money itself. Like I could really care less about like being the richest person or whatever, but I definitely want to be the most well respected.
That's cool. That's a compelling case. I like that answer. Well, cool. We're kind of at the top here. Is there anything else you wanted to add? I know we should probably plug, your company's Jazz Land. You do coaching, right? What all do you do that folks would be interested in?
I mean, yeah, I do some coaching. I've kind of scaled it back, but I think we're about to try and ramp it back up and actually make a actual business out of it. I think so that I have some hopefully exciting stuff coming on that. But you just look me up on that, John Jasniak, on all social media. And it's probably the best way to find me. I answer all the DMs. YouTube and Instagram are my biggest. And johnjasniak.com, of course. But I just like looking at deals. Like if anyone has a deal, or especially like a development project, you're like, hey, can you look this over? Like I get those all the time in the DMs. I look them up, and because I'm always learning something and connecting with cool people. You'd be surprised who sends you development deals in the DMs.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, and I should have mentioned this at the top, but you're going to be our speaker at the DFW Land Investor Group seminar this month on the 18th
Let's go.
in Arlington, Texas. If anyone's interested, you can see it on the group and join it and whatnot. But John, man, I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you here in a week and a half, couple weeks, and we'll have to get dinner after with some folks. It's a lot of fun.
Let's do it, man. I appreciate you having me and looking forward to the 18th.
All right. Cheers, y'all.